So something I would like to raise, which was actually my first published paper, was how you and the Likud party are cut from the same ideological cloth as Trump and the GOP in America. And so specifically with Charlie Kirk's assassination, who was a big mentor of mine, he's my first mentor in the space, evangelicals, from all my research, evangelicals are the reason that Israel has been supported in public sphere outside of just Jews. So with Charlie's assassination and with the kind of trajectory that we see with like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, I guess I'm curious about what's another game plan if we lose evangelical support for the state of Israel. What's our backup plan to be strong, like outside the diaspora?
Christian influencers. Okay, you said we talked about the woke right, and you said I call it the woke Reich. That's a brilliant observation. The woke right, because these people, you know, they're not any different from the woke left. I mean, they're insane. They're loonies, but they're actually meeting on some of the things. And what we have to do is we have to secure that part of the base of our support in the United States. That is being challenged systematically. A lot of this is done with money of NGOs, vast, money of governments, vaster. Okay. We have to fight back. How do we fight back? Our influencers. I think you should also talk to them if you have a chance, to that community. They're very important. And secondly, we're going to have to use the tools of battle. You know, the weapons change over time. You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well, okay? And you can't fight with cavalry. That doesn't work very well. And you have these new things, you know, like drones, things like that. I won't get into that. But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are the social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is class
Followers.
TikTok. TikTok, number one. And I hope it goes through because it can be consequential. And the other one, what's the other one that's most important?
X.
X. Exactly. Very good. And, you know, so we have to talk to Elon. He's not an enemy. He's a friend. We should talk to him. Now, if we can get those two things, we get a lot. And I could go on other things, but that's not the point right now. We have to fight the fight, okay? To give direction to the Jewish people and give direction to our non-Jewish friends or those who could be our Jewish our friends. Are we going to succeed with everyone? No. Will there be a strong counterpart? Yes.
Fear and propaganda, it goes a long way. It goes a long way in gaining success, the more ignorant we are. What keeps us in a place of ignorance? What is it that keeps us ignorant? What I mean by ignorant is, as the world turns in your nation, you don't know what the hell is going on. You can't explain it. You can't articulate it. You don't even know where to start with understanding it. So you just give up. You pacify yourself. You distract yourself. You find coping mechanisms. You wash your hands. It's not my problem because it's not at my front door. That right there is part of the problem, because that's one more person that's holding darkness against the light. You might have the misunderstanding of thinking that just because you do not form the intention of resisting the light or working against the light, it's not your intention that does that. It's your status that does that. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's the consequence of your status of ignorance that works against the light in and of itself, by nature, by law, by universal law. Your claim of your noble intentions is irrelevant when your status reflects negligence, willful ignorance, the decision to not change the fact that you don't know what's happening in your world, in your country, in your nation. You can't explain it. You can't have the conversations. You just wait for somebody else to tell you what's going on. You're a burden. You're blocking a light. You're stopping a light. You're in the way. You're dead weight. Everybody has to pick up their weight and walk. You're freeloading. Why don't you know what's going on? Why? Why aren't you in position to explain what's happening in your country? Why? Is it the bliss of ignorance? The bliss that you get to enjoy? The sweetness of not knowing in order not to feel responsible? Not knowing in order not to feel burdened? In order not to feel as if there may be something that you're supposed to do with what you know? Mercury conjunct Mars. Your awareness that arrives at the command of action. Your action is enough effective, even if it is within the limitations of self-governance, according to your awareness of what's happening in this world. You could be the one person that stops the spread of the darkness, that pushes light against one more wave of darkness because of your awareness. And it makes the difference. There's a battle in heaven. And what is heaven? Pisces, your imagination. There's a war. There's a war in the imaginations. There's a war in the mind. There's a war for your perception, for your belief, for your faith. And they're spending good money on it. They're willing to put a budget behind it. They're willing to pay influencers who are charismatic, who are attractive, who are articulate, who have numbers, who has the validation and the clout, who has the followings. And they put money behind them to take advantage of the ignorant. Ignorant people are dangerous. They are first a danger to themselves and then to others. And the excuse is always, I only meant to. I only was trying to. It's not my intention to. I'm a good person. None of that justifies willful ignorance, because the damage is still done because of willful ignorance. And it is willful because awareness is accessible to you, but you refuse. This is the cusp of Scorpio, the truth that you're scared to look at, that you have become complacent about dealing with, the homework that still is sitting on the table collecting dust that has your name on it, in the view of freedom, correctness, and sincerity in Sagittarius. And we're reviewing this and where you stand relating to truth, where you relate to in your beliefs. It doesn't matter if you choose to be a Christian, a Muslim, neither of them, a yogi, none of that matters. Because all directions are good directions. All directions are the correct direction. All religions are the right religions. But it's the person and the intention that they have or not. It's just like a gun. A gun is not a bad thing. A gun doesn't have a heart. A gun doesn't have intent. A gun doesn't have will. A gun is a gun. A gun is not bad until a bad person picks it up. A gun is not good until a good person picks it up. A gun is not good until someone uses it for good. A gun is not bad until someone uses it for bad. And it's the same with religion. Christianity cannot be blamed. Muslims cannot be blamed. Islam, that is, cannot be blamed for what some Muslims choose to do. Christianity cannot be blamed for what some Christians choose to do. And both have a resume that makes them both questionable. The point that I'm getting at is where we stand with willful ignorance, where we stand with the truth, and whether or not we feel responsible enough or not to know the truth, to make the effort to unpack it, discover it, ask questions, become curious, and get busy. Empower yourself through it. That is Scorpio, to empower yourself. Sagittarius, Mercury, retrograde, from a collective standpoint and individual too, this is a review on what you believe. The review includes what you believe. There's a hefty budget right now as we speak to purchase the collective narrative, to make sure that you like who they want you to like and dislike who they want you to dislike. There's a budget through social media and influencers to purchase your perception, making all efforts to manufacture your consent and your perception, your sentiments, your feelings. This has been working since Hitler. Like a well-oiled machine. You put enough money behind a propaganda initiative, and the non-thinking people will believe anything that's suggested to them. It's very easy to get people to fear something or believe something if they are emotionally led, emotionally provoked, and especially if there are codependent traits in the spirit. Codependency is how we fall into that. It's a great fear to be by yourself in what you think, by yourself in what you believe. Most people don't have the courage to overcome that crisis. The fact that you see for yourself, you hear for yourself, you know for yourself, but because to confirm what you are verifying as truth would mean to lose friends, lose admiration, lose money opportunities, lose political leverage and influence, lose your audience, lose your followers. Most people can't stomach the idea of losing status or connection in relationships, and the price of the soul is very cheap. It costs nothing. Souls are very cheap to buy. It don't take much to buy a soul. Our administration and the principalities behind the administration, they're stepping into religion. Specifically, white Christian nationalism, Zionism, Mormonism, and all other bridges of sentiment to Zionism, which is not to be misunderstood for Judaism. It is not the same thing. Khazarians of Israel are in a panic to purchase and buy your thoughts and beliefs. Benjamin Netanyahu admitted it on camera. He confessed it. He admitted and confessed that he has every intention to budget, put on payroll, influencers to drive the message, to drive the ideals, to drive the perception that their enemy is your enemy, that who they don't like is who you should not like, and who they like is who you should like. And who do they like? They like that you should subscribe to, fight for, side with, take favor with. Christian nationalism. It's a point of political and social compatibility. It's also the most convenient option for those who do not have identity, a base of knowledge and understanding of religion, spirituality. It's a convenient place to hide in a crowd. It's a convenient way to side with who you think is going to offer you security and covering from a social perspective. It's the lazy man and lazy woman's option to fall into the crowd and say, Christ is king, Jesus is king. I'm not arguing whether or not it is a truth. That's not the point. What I'm questioning as a belief is why you actually claim to believe it. Why? Did you come to your own conclusion in that? Or is it a safe space politically, socially, that makes you feel covered if you should agree to such slogans, ideals, and affirmations. The crowd is vast. It's large. The ratio is a huge disparity. Majority are not going to be able to think on their own, come to sincere conclusions, brave the process of seeking truth and confirming it for themselves of what they're lending their belief and faith to, their convictions. This is what Sagittarius is about. The passionate fight and argument for what you claim to believe, for what you are convinced is true or not. There's a blind spot with Sagittarius. Sagittarius is ignorant. Ignorant. However, because Sagittarius basks in a fire of experience, its ignorance is passing. Because experience, it eventually confirms truth. It eventually exposes falsehoods through experience, not through study, not through research, through experience. There's a huge campaign right now that we should be aware of in our world, as this is consistent with Sagittarius, Mercury, direct and retrograde. It is also consistent with the fact that Mars has this conjunction and is transiting Sagittarius, that is to act on what you say you believe, to act on your convictions, to take actions and decisions behind it. No religion is a wrong religion. It is man and it is woman whose intentions it's the intention of man and woman that weaponizes religions, misrepresents religions, brings hypocrisy into religions, use it for division, separation, animosity, fear, hatred. This is part of the design. The secret treaty of Verona was originated for this purpose: to use religion as an instrument in politics and social engineering, just as it was with Constantine. Napoleon Bonaparte, seen through the illusion, He was a devoted student of the study of the life of Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, and Islam. He even adopted the nickname Little Muhammad. And through that, he found means to challenge the status quo and side with the weak, to side with the disadvantaged, to side with the people, and challenging the oppressive powers of his time. Europe would not suffer that again in their intention. So they not only created the Treaty of Verona in response to that, which was an alliance on the idea of using religion as political tool and leverage to bring a docile status to the people, but they actively banned and worked against Islam, because Islam was such that did not remove the docility, that did not place docility in the people, that did not disarm the people from their dignity and responsibility to reply and answer to injustice, social injustice, or oppression. And that's a problem. It's a problem that within Sharia law, within Hadith and wisdom of Prophet Muhammad, and the example that he demonstrated, there was no way to subject the people to their witchcraft, sorcery, black magic, and other forms of illusion that strip people of their dignity and power. There is no way to exploit women. There is no way to manipulate families, to weaken the people, as long as Islam was their practice or source of awareness. As long as it was the reference of the criterion of judgment, it was not possible. Even during the time of the Spanish Inquisition, when Muslims were exiled, it was the Moorish Muslims themselves who betrayed the Muslims that got them out of there. That scares them. It worries them. It concerns them. That if Islam should spread, which doesn't mean that everybody becomes Muslim. It simply means if everyone becomes aware of specific perspectives of reasoning concerning law, civics, justice, human rights, dignity, that is founded upon matriarchal wisdom, their dark magic would not be able to work. There's a reason they want you to be afraid of Islam, to find hatred to express for Muslims and Islam. To actively reject and resent it. While the irony is still there that many do not have reasonable argument, reasonable explanation, or personal experience that justifies such expressions. It is simply ignorant passion. Sagittarius. Ignorant passion. A false security of being covered by the crowd. Christ is king, Jesus is king, so on and so forth. Ironically, not knowing and understanding that Muslims agree that Christ is king, Jesus is king, according to Quran. It is agreed upon. There's a lot of ignorance taking place right now. And some of us may even assume this has nothing to do with me because I'm not Christian, I'm not Muslim. Okay, point made. But here's how it has to do with all of us. If you are American, or if you are of any nations influenced by or affected by, directly or indirectly, by Khazarians, i.e., the Israeli state, corporation, or United States, yes, it has a direct effect to you and your children and your legacy. It's not about picking sides with religion. It's not about being a Muslim or a Christian. It's about understanding the divisiveness that's being practiced on your own emotions, fears, sentiments, ignorance, and insecurities as it relates to your position with relationships and people of society and the status that you might be confused of in yourself and where you belong in society. Thus, going for what is most convenient as an idea of siding with power, with what seems to be a siding with power. Who has the most power? Not do I believe in Jesus, not do I believe in Christ, not do I believe what I'm saying or even understand what I'm saying. It's the fact that I sense there could be power in me saying so in association with those who also say Christ is king, Jesus is king. Because I'm unable to articulate or explain why I'm even saying it. This is where there's a problem that comes back to the lesson of authenticity or inauthenticity. As you already know, this is the number one theme of the transits we are passing through. Are you being authentic? Are you being yourself? Have you recovered your true and natural identity? Are you still afraid and insecure? Falling back into, receding back into codependent behaviors and habits and triggers and reflexes. You see what's going on. If they aren't telling you to be afraid, I'm not even going to go on that other subject. There's a lot of sensitive ears out there, and I'm just going to stick with this one point. A lot of, people are really sensitive. Belief is a topic right now. And when Mercury gets back into Scorpio, the responsibility falls on us to get to the truth. To stop riding the coattail of somebody else. To stop agreeing just because it feels convenient or because you think that it associates you with power, with leverage, with political power and leverage to agree or side with something or someone. Again, I'm not here to tell you to be Christian or Muslim. I could give a damn. You could do well for your soul going in any direction you choose if you are sincere, if you really mean it. I am specifying that we have a current review in the lessons of authenticity and sincerity. Do you really mean that? Is that really you? Is that really what you about? Are you really like that? Or are you doing it because you feel safe behind the numbers, behind the crowd, behind the wall of voices and personalities and comments, status quo, popularity, that makes you feel like you might have recovered an identity by identifying with who might be holding the most power in the contrast of comparisons going on? You don't have to pick a side. You don't have to pick for Muslims. You don't have to pick for Christians. But we do have the responsibility to be sure that we're not being used for somebody else's dirty agenda through our sentiments, opinions, and outlooks and perceptions. We do have the responsibility to make sure that somebody is not being divisive with our own ignorance. We do have that responsibility. We can't just get into an echo chamber, a symphony, a chorus, because they got numbers. They got the fancy cameras. The budget is behind them. This is how we keep falling into social engineering traps. This is how we keep falling into putting our life force behind wicked agendas. And it's not until the destruction, the harm is already done, in hindsight, that we see that we allowed ourselves to be used. It's not until long after that we look back and see all the damage that we helped to do. We fell for the same trick when it came to corporate ambitions in ourselves, running and racing for the 10th house as the only interpretation of value in our life, as the only route to confirming value in our identity, was according to what your status in the 10th house is in context of careers. That's what we selected. We chose it. We agreed that that should be the direction. We agreed that that should be the value, but we didn't have to. We didn't have to agree with that. We can't keep being blind. We can't just keep following the crowd. We can't keep allowing ourselves to be used for others' lust, for others' agendas, who hide in secret behind the veil, in high places, swimming in money, as you destroy yourselves out of your own ignorance and fear. We have to make a start and using our own vitality, our own soul, our own power for our own good and not against our own good. What are we accomplishing by agreeing to fearmonger and spread hatred and division between Muslim and Christian? There's a lot of confusion because we have refused to apply ourselves to seek understanding, to seek knowledge, to seek the truth. That's what Scorpio Stellium has been about, getting to the truth. Let me ask you this question. Nobody's around. It's just you and me. And I'm going to ask you this question. Answer it silently to yourself, because I'm not here to expose anybody. Did you do your own research? Did you? Do you understand that Jews who follow and subscribe to the practice of Judaism, they do not agree with Zionists? They do not agree with Zionism. They do not subscribe to anything of what the corporation of Israel is doing. They do not support it. They do not agree with it. I know firsthand and personally from Hasidic Jews, as an example, in Brooklyn, New York, the biggest, the largest community of Jews in America. I am not speaking from secondhand. I'm speaking from firsthand experience. They do not support them. They do not agree with what they're doing over there. There's a difference. Did you know that? Do you understand that that's a reason why I specify Khazarians when I refer to them? Do you understand why there is an emphasis and anxiousness for Khazarian Zionists of Israel Corporation to put a budget behind the spread and promotion of Christian nationalism, specifically white Christian nationalism? White Americans are more likely to push fear-mongering and division from Christian perspective based on their accessibility and compatibility with white Christian nationalism. It's the convenient route to conversion of the corporation of United States into a Zionistic sentiment that is compatible with a Khazarian Israel state, which has nothing to do with Judaism or Jews. The religion, it has nothing to do with it. It is political. The problem is that those who subscribe to the white Christian nationalism that is on payroll, that is on budget, they're too ignorant to understand that. Because the reason for their participation and association and promotion of it has to do with identity politics, not beliefs, not convictions, not any truth that they themselves have confirmed in their own heart. This is what allows fear-mongering to work successfully. Ignorance, not knowing, not understanding for yourself. not doing the due diligence and research to get down to the bottom of what the truth is, of what's happening in your world. It's your responsibility to find out. Ignorance is bliss. Have you selected the bliss of ignorance instead of awareness? Be honest. Did you? If you did, you're part of the problem and you're hurting us. You're keeping us back. You're blocking us. You're stagnating us. You're darkening the skies. You're an enemy to light because it's willful, it's deliberate to be subject to such ignorance. Because awareness is accessible to you, but you selected not to be aware. That's a problem. Khazarian's banking systems, it would never succeed as long as the awareness of Sharia laws matriarchal wisdom that exposes the criminality of their banking practices. It exposes it. That's the power of matriarchal wisdom. That's the power of matriarchal law. When law and wisdom is matriarchal, it exposes criminality. The criminality that comes through its polar opposite, Capricorn. Sharia law is Cancer in nature. Its wisdom is Cancer in nature. It is matriarchal in nature. And because it is matriarchal, it easily exposes in contrast the ill intent of those who are coming from the dark shadows of the devil card, Capricorn, Saturn, and detriment. It easily exposes it. That's part of the insecurity. It gives you rebuttal. It gives you strength in argument. It gives you renewed perspective. It gives you comparative analysis. It gives you awareness of options and other justifications in which you realize that it's not true that you have to subject yourself to the options that they present to you of lifestyle, of economics, of politics, of social order, of welfare, of healthcare, of security, of family. Islam is a contrast that exposes the harm and foul practices and problematic policies that Khazarians and white Christian nationalists want to remain as traditional preference, reference, or limitation in options. And it keeps us stuck in the outlook and perception of Capricorn reality over our world and what options we have as a collective to secure ourselves as the people and take care of ourselves as the people and to become the trust of each other as the people. Islam and Sharia points you in the direction of how you can actually manifest that without doing harm to others, without abusing others, without mistreating or exploiting others, without practicing dishonesty, with keeping your dignity, and your humanity without subjecting yourself to usury and other foul practices. There's a reason they want to fearmonger Islam. It's the alternative matriarchal option for families, relationships, societies, government, and any infrastructure that you can imagine. I'm not calling you to Islam. I'm not calling you against Christianity if you will listen to what I'm saying verbatim. Okay? Not rounding off what I'm saying to the next exponent. Not taking assumptions in the words that I'm selecting, but actually listening to every word that I deliberately select from Mercury at the 10th house Taurus, conjunct Vesta. Thank you very much. I say exactly what I mean. I say exactly what I mean. You're making a grave mistake if you think it has nothing to do with you. Mercury. This is media. Our media is in this retrograde. What we're getting out of the media, what the media is feeding to the people, and even if you yourself throw the TV out on a sidewalk and never look at media again, the programming still contaminates the people and occupants of your society. So if it's not directly an influence to you, it's secondarily going to be. It's indirectly going to be. Because most are programmed, while very few have identities and clarity of their own critical thinking mind. The solution is not to pretend like we can't see or hear, to run away, to plug our ears. The solution is, how do we align ourselves with truth? What do we do when programming is running to manufacture our consent, perception, and sentiments? Do we have a tool for that? Are we aware of when that programming is running? How have we been doing when it comes to that? It's the Spanish Inquisition all over again. This is how all this shit got started, with conquistadors sailing from sea to shining sea. It started with the Spanish Inquisition. And here it is all over again. What is sad is that some of you still don't know what the fuck Spanish Inquisition is. I put it on my website. I explained it. I talked about it. I made references. I put up links. And some of y'all still don't know what the fuck Spanish Inquisition is. Willful ignorance. You're the problem. You are why the sky gets dark. You are why the contamination continues to spread. It's not your intention. It's your selection of ignorance. You could have all the noble intentions in the world. I'm a good person. I only meant well. I wouldn't hurt a fly. Willful ignorance is all of that. It is to do harm to yourself and others, regardless of what you intended. That's what you should understand. We have come full circle to the Spanish Inquisition all over again. The attack on Muslims, the budget to go to war against Muslims, indoctrination to fearmonger about Muslims, to expel Muslims, to block Muslims. I'm not asking you to love Muslims. I'm asking you not to be a device of someone else's dirty agendas. You might regret it. You might regret it. How many of you listening have forefathers who were part of doctrine of discovery and conquistadors or settlers? Manifest destiny conquistadors or settlers? Slave masters? Privileged people of the society of white Christian nationalism and Christian black codes that suppressed other indigenous nations of the land. But it all started with what? Manifest destiny. And manifest destiny came from what? Doctrine of discovery. Doctrine of discovery came from what? The spread of Spanish Inquisition. Can you see how the dots connect? And can you see how, especially as white people out there, you're not as disconnected from this conversation as some of you may assume. You have ancestral ties to this topic. You have a legacy of patterns with this topic, of not only intentionally doing this shit, but unintentionally allowing yourself to be used as a device in spreading this shit. And it has returned. So white Americans especially should be aware of this so as not to incur karma from promulgating a legacy of tyranny on earth that continues to rear its head, of the divisiveness and weaponization of Christianity, the fear-mongering and hatred of the innocent, for corporate gain. Can you see how this goes back to the fourth house of your forefathers in Cancer? Can you see how this includes Jupiter, which is the competence that we are responsible for having of what the fuck has been going on in our house from an ancestral standpoint, fourth house? Ignorance is dangerous. It is harmful. So we do have to understand that the layers of topics that are happening right now, we're not separate from it. We're not detached from it. And we have a responsibility to it collectively, whether you like it or not. You all see what's happening. You all see what's going on. You all see the headlines and the stories. You all feel the tension and the edit. Anybody who's living in America, you know what the fuck going on. You know what the fuck going on. This is our world. This is our generation. And guess what? We all have to play part in determining where we go from here. We can't determine where we go from here in a productive and evolutionary sense out of ignorance, because ignorance only repeats and fulfills insanity. It repeats the same thing over and over again. Does anybody out there understand what the fuck is going on and the responsibility that we have to the time? Mars is action. Mercury, that's the media that I'm referring to in the messaging that I'm referring to. Neptune is in Pisces. There's some confusion going on here. Saturn is in Pisces too. There is some confusion going on here. North Node. Yeah, It's cloudy, it's not clear. But that's not an excuse. When there's confusion, we have the responsibility to seek understanding. That is something that is proactive, not wishful. It is proactive. It's a duty. We're responsible for what takes place in our lifetime, collectively. We get to decide.